Oh, yeah. Scary. It'll like tear your whole roof off. It's
Hello,
insane.
Lance, how are you?
All right. I guess we're all here now. Are we waiting for Jake, or is he going to be late?
And,
He is probably going to be a few minutes late. He was working at the other location today, so.
Not to rush you into anything, Mr. Neely, but the floor is yours if you'd like it.
Mayor, if it's okay with you, we might start with a quick staff presentation.
Oh, I'm
and then,
sorry. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry.
Leave it to Representative Neely. If that's okay. Lance, unless you want to start us off. Okay. I promise I'll be quick. It probably is going to look somewhat familiar. Of course, unfortunately, Senator Gossage couldn't make it this evening. Just as a reminder what the districts are, I guess this is year 2 now of the new Senate district for us, where we got repositioned. So in the old district, when Senator Holland was our representative, Tonganoxie used to be kind of more right in the middle geographically of the district, and so now we're shifted. And of course, Beverly told us last time she lives near DeSoto, but that's the Senate District 3 that we're part of. And then, of course, Representative Neely's our guy for 42. I don't think did that change geographically during?
A few years ago.
Yeah, before the Senate change. Okay. And we're still kind of central there, just over to the east a little bit. All right, Lance, development activity continues here. I could bore you with all of the details. I will say that comparatively to the county, we are much more balanced from a diversified tax base in terms of what we have, commercial, industrial, and residential. And in fact, when Hills comes off its abatement, we're going to be really close to a 65-35% split, where the county, I believe as a whole, or the county itself is more 90-10, heavily dependent upon residential. And so, of course, with that development activity and use of incentives and the ability to go pursue projects has been really big for our community. And I'll come back to that. The library district slide, we've kind of recycled this a little bit. We talked to you and Beverly about this last time. Staff's had the chance to take a closer look at it. We put it in our newsletter this fall. Didn't get any death threats from library board or any citizens, so that was probably a good sign. It meant one of two things. Either nobody read the newsletter or people were generally curious about it. A couple of things have changed, though, since the last time we talked to you guys about it. So our city mill has been reduced. The library had reduced it. The city had grown. I think the last time we really quantified a lot of this stuff was in 2021. And back then, the city of Tonganoxie's assessed value was about $56 million. As you see now, we're a little over $80 million. So that's very positive growth within that fairly short time period. Our current library setup is that more than 93% of the revenue comes from ad valorem taxes or personal property. So very little comes into the library in the form of grants or other, air quotes, other funding. And so that really kind of spawned some of the discussion about NECLs, or that Northeast Kansas Library System, and what does that really mean. And so originally we looked at, if you look on the bigger screen, it might be easier to see on that lower left, everything that was kind of in that hash mark area. Well, let me go back to the picture on top just to remind you. The far right big block is the Baser District Library. Then the big block on the south side is the Linwood District Library. And then that small area is the Tonganoxie City Library. And so the proposal is, well, let's grow this into a district as well. And so really the cross-hatched areas that we're looking at are adding Tonganoxie Township and Stranger Township. So if we did that, and this is allowed under KSA 12-1236, the changes that would need to occur to keep the city library at its current funding level, so the same revenue stream coming in, it would need to be about 2.763 mils. So right now, the city taxpayers pay just under 6 mils total. So that target mill rate would be over a 3 mil levy reduction for city taxpayers. Currently, those county residents pay a little over 1.2 mils, and that goes straight to the Northeast Kansas, or Nichols. And so the proposal there would then change them from 1.22 or 1.21 mils to a little over, well, that 2.763, which is about 1.553 mils additional. So, hey, Chief. So what does that, besides the levy reduction, what does that mean? So in the city of Tonganoxie, for a home that's valued at $300,000, that saves that family about $110 a year. Conversely, then in the county, it would add about $54, I believe, for a $300,000 home. And then exponentially the math can go. Maybe you know, there may not be a $300,000 house in the county. They're probably a little bit more than that. But just to kind of get a sense of the scale we're talking about. One interesting tidbit too is, so currently what those townships paid to Nichols equates to, I believe, right at about $100,000, a little bit more, $112,000. And of that, we're not exactly sure what the library receives directly. I believe it's about $27,000 or $28,000, but all of the library's grants in total are about $38,000. So if that area is paying $112,000, most of that, it could be argued that most of that financial benefit is going elsewhere because Nichols is not returning that. And I don't think it's a dollar for dollar expectation. However, if you're in a district, it is. You're going to pay local, and it's going to stay at the local library. But again, per that statute, the only way to really introduce this is we need either you or the senator to introduce it, get it passed, a bill passed that gets signed off so we could do a ballot initiative on it. I think from the city standpoint, we need to update our city council with some of these new numbers. In the past, we've approached the library. They've been a little hesitant because the concern is library boards and control, and do you have to go to a fully elected board? The answer is no, you don't. And so we need to kind of re-engage them. Is this something we may ask for yet this year during this cycle? I don't know, maybe. We have 2 new city council members coming on board. How quick do we get them up to speed? And then finally, the red arrow that leads to the little table at top just kind of shows you, so our proposed 2.763 mils, 2.7, how does that compare? Well, Baser's district is at over 5 mils. The Linwood district is just a little under at 2.625. Leavenworth City Library is 4.463, and then Lansing City Library is 3.214. So they would make us extremely competitive in terms of the mill rate there. So we may come ask you this year about this. Any questions or concerns about that?
No, but I will have some more to say about that.
Perfect. Okay, great. Rural water districts, just another reminder as we grow, we're going to talk about some growth opportunities. There is that statute that protects the rural water districts. We've grown, the city of Tonganoxie's grown in directions where I would say it's more in like suburban waters coverage area, which we don't believe they're afforded the same protections. And so part of the discussion of anticipated future growth may incorporate more of those areas. Funding assistance for large-scale infrastructure projects. We are currently in the process of our doubling the capacity of the wastewater treatment plant. I kind of put this old slide back up. Back in the day of base grants, we applied for a lot. We weren't unfortunately selected for anything. So instead of grants, we did take a loan through the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. They have a revolving loan fund. So we're financing the first phase of the approximate $10 million wastewater treatment plant. It's about let's call the first part of it about $6 million. Just wanted to remind you that Tonganoxie is growing. We do have infrastructure needs, so anytime funding comes available, if you're made aware of it, if you could give us a heads up in case it's something new, and that way we're not waiting for like the league or somebody to update us. And then again, just a reminder of both Kansas Housing Resources Corporation and RHID. I know you've probably been aware that Leavenworth County has turned down some RHIDs recently, in Lansing. I don't know if you picked up on some of the undertone of their conversation. Well, how did Tongi get it done? And it was somewhere between we duped them and they just weren't aware. So, but we've been successful in the use of that, and we feel, during the time that we use these incentives, the city's also been able to reduce our city mill rate. I think we've cut it a little more than 5 mills over the last 3 years. And conversely, I think during that same time, Leavenworth County's had to increase the county mill. And the county is the second largest taxing entity, not just for the city of Tonganoxie, for all the major cities in the county. So school district, then the county, then the cities. So additional items, I won't beat you up over this, but I feel always obligated to talk a little bit about Lavatar. We know it's not coming back. The countywide sales and use taxes, just last year, looking through the thick report of all the bills that contemplated giving additional sales tax exemptions, probably the one that would hurt us the most is like a grocery one. Even though we don't have benefit districts set up for sales tax off that, it's still, in a small community, grocery store is still going to be one of the major sales tax generators. I mean, we do have sales tax initiatives here locally, like the library and some infrastructure improvements. And then obviously home rule and the massive need to protect municipalities' home rule abilities. Okay, so that brings me to my last slide. What are some of the potential upcoming issues that we wanted you to be aware of from the city's perspective? And I apologize actually to my city council. They're probably seeing a lot of this for the first time, although we've talked a lot about a lot of these. The first thing is just a gripe, the House Bill 2304 that kind of forces Commerce to do extensive reporting on impacts of the use of economic development incentives. So you can imagine what Commerce did, and they're like, well, here's a spreadsheet the city needs to fill out for us. And so, when you maybe in communities that have big staffs and multiple people to go ferret this out, a lot of it's like, how many jobs were created? Okay, well, is that during construction or post-construction? And what's the value? And how much tax is being generated? And so I understand the desire of why that was asked for Commerce to produce that, but I guess it's fair play that they asked us to give it to them too. So any sales tax loss, I just kind of mentioned that on that previous slide. E-mobility devices. Chief Lawson's here. He's a big fan of e-scooters and e-bikes. So the state statute is written in a way that it really, and STOs, I think you're familiar with all these acronyms. So it focuses on CCs in the motor. And so obviously electric motors don't have that. And so we're having a difficult time. We're fortunate, unlike some other communities that have had fatalities from either kids or people on scooters being killed. But we just have, kids that are underage that have no awareness of the normal street laws, traffic laws, and they're turned loose. And so we're going to actually, in tonight's city council meeting, we're going to ask the council to adopt the 2025 STO and UPOC. We'll come back at a later time when we have a little more time to develop, but we'll be recommending a policy that either limits or denies the use, prohibits the use of e-bikes. Likely it'll be some caveat of you have to be of a certain age to verify that you pass some traffic laws. So, but if it comes up in the state, because locally a lot of communities are already talking about this, and we've had meetings with Mid-America Regional Council, it would be nice in a sense if the state could somehow codify a general rule that we could all either agree to participate or follow, or modify with some local traffic regulations. Very similar for us to what we did with UTVs. We previously had some work site vehicle language, and then we just did a full-blown UTV, and you get it registered with the city kind of thing. Okay, the next few things kind of all go together. The County Road 1 corridor, you may not be aware of this, but the city paid $1.5 million towards that road project. I know it's minuscule compared to what the county and KTA put into that project, but the city paid that, and we probably have the least amount of available revenue to do it. The county was nice enough to give us 10, 11 years to pay that back. But that's how important that corridor is. Obviously, it's the direct connection to our business park, to I-70, but with Tailgate Ranch being marketed and coming online, that 2,100 plus acres becomes very interesting. I put some data center developments and some concerns. We're seeing an influx of, within the last 2-3 months, at least 3 data center type projects that have indicated interest in this corridor. Obviously, from our perspective, I think even though this property's in the county currently, they're very interested in sanitary sewer and water, and those are things that the city utilities probably provide better than, well, no one else is going to run sewer, but we probably have better faculties about water as well. There are some concerns just with the prevalence of these projects kind of populating both regionally as well as nationally. A lot of communities are kind of not wanting that. This isn't a highly populated area for us from a residential standpoint, but it's also the same corridor that had a lot of anti-Tyson stuff going on, and it took us quite a few years to recover to the point where we could attract Hills back to our business park. And so we're very willing participants in any discussion that occurs, but also deeply concerned that if they don't do something like annex into the city, what the state or county may do or not do from a regulatory component that the city would like to see in place. And then I just added the last one, the nuclear-powered electric plant, because I was made aware by LCDC that the county, the executive board at LCDC had asked, because they were reading that multiple cities were saying, hey, we'd like to be the location for this next nuclear plant that's been approved, I guess, by the state somewhere. And the Department of Commerce indicated that the first step is to get a letter of interest submitted. So Lisa Hack met with Mark Lawfrey and Vanessa Reed, and they said, yeah, draft something so that the county commissioners can consider if they want to submit this letter of interest. And somehow that turned into a different representative on the county commission putting on Facebook that LCDC is trying to get this project located here. And so it's my understanding that the Board of County Commissioners are going to discuss this in some capacity at their commission meeting this week. No one from the county has called to ask what our thoughts are on it. Neither has our county representative. I would imagine if there's a project of this scale and scope, there's not going to be a lot of 2,000-acre contiguous one-owner currently on the market type properties. So I'm very suspicious that this site is going to be part of some discussion eventually. So, okay, said a lot. Breeze through it. I guess I would throw it back to the mayor. If the mayor or the city council has any comments or additional things that staff neglected to put in our presentation that are important to you folks.
Council, do you have anything to add to what Mr. Brockovich had to say?
No, I think you had it pretty well, George. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just because I want to make sure that there's time. We had a gentleman come in this summer who was concerned about a speed limit in town, and the process to amend that was kind of a difficult one, at least per my memory. I remember there was some kind of state legislation, at least in committee last year, and just my 2 cents on it, I guess, is it would be nice to have a little more flexibility. In this instance, I think the gentleman had a pretty good petition of his neighbors, and anyway, we couldn't get anything done without having a traffic study, which was kind of expensive, and so just going back to local rule, it'd be nice to kind of have some flexibility to meet citizen concerns. And I guess there is some proposed piece of legislation out there. I wanted to bring it to your attention. That's it.
So Lance, just real quick on that, so currently, the default in Kansas is if it's not posted otherwise in residential, it's 30. We have some neighborhoods that, as they got platted because of the street width and on-street parking, we posted 20. So this gentleman wanted to go to 20. The legislation we saw introduced last year suggested that the state would allow communities to reduce it from 30 to 25 without the need of a traffic study. You know, so for us, again, small town, small budget, you know, doing a $5,000 to $7,500 traffic study for a one-way in, one-way out neighborhood. I mean, if they're speeding, it's likely your neighbors. We would be willing to do it, but it was just not a budget priority for us to say, we'll shell that out for a traffic study. So, but we would be supportive of anything that would allow us to at least reduce it to 25. I think so. Green button?
They were green, okay. I'm aware of that situation where it came down and what was transpiring. And I do believe that there is the potential for legislation already, maybe even pre-filed on that. And I will support that 1,000% because the traffic studies are stupid and they take forever and they cost a lot of money. And so, you know, that's one of those things and everything where I will be very much in support of trying to help with that. But I will check and see with transportation, because I'm sure that's probably where it's going through with Representative Francis. And I was vice chair of transportation, but I'm vice chair of agriculture now. So I would have already heard it if it was already coming through now. But that's one of those things that I will check on, and I'll get back with George and everything on it and see if I can find something out if there's already something pre-filed on it. I'm happy to turn around and try and look for the water grants. You know, anything I'll look into that in trying to help, especially with the potential of the County Road 1 corridor and the potential that you guys may be, you know, more stuff going in that direction. I mean, we don't know what all will transpire there, but you know, you guys are going to need help with infrastructure, with water and stuff that way for sure, going that direction and any other direction. But I anticipate, and I'm sure you do too, that that's probably the direction the majority of things are going to go, as the water districts and everything that are available to turn around and grow and have infrastructure, et cetera, are probably going to go that direction. Obviously, all of you know I'm very close and everything to Tailgate Ranch. Kurt Sowers is my treasurer. We're best friends, so he's not mad. I'm not mad. We're both sad, but this is one of those situations that we've known was going to occur at least 5 years ago or more, with the passing of the patriarch of that family and it coming up to sale. The kids that were out there, they haven't been out here in 15, 20 years. They're, you know, you have a property that the whole thing could be selling for $70+ million. You can't be mad at them either. That would pay my bills off. So, you know, Kirk's not mad, I'm not mad. When projects are coming in, I would like to be involved with them so that, you know, I make sure that they're coming in and we don't have a situation where we have in the past where people are upset about things. We want it to be a good thing for our community. But I'm all for us trying to get some more industrial and businesses down in that area. We've got to take some of the weight off the back of the homeowners. It's the #1 priority all across the state is property tax. It's the #1 thing I hear about every single place I go It's what everybody wants to talk about. I mean, 100%. So it's something that, you know, it will be the number one priority, obviously, when we go back. There will be several other things that are distractions, but that will be the number one thing. And my hope, my pray, everything is that because this is an election year, that something will get done. Because I will honestly tell you that I was so angry by the end of the last session that nothing got done. You know, I felt like there was bickering between the Senate and the House, and things didn't get accomplished. And I'm hoping that with it being an election year, they get something done. And if they don't, then everybody deserves what they get come next election. That's just my feel about it. So, let's see, what else? You talked about the exemptions on some of the things. I will tell you that on the ATVs and the electric bikes and the golf carts and all those things, there was a bill that has passed now that will exempt those. And when they listed these things, they said ATVs, electric bikes, golf carts, electric wheelchairs. And I said, I beg your pardon? And they said electric wheelchairs. And I said, are you telling me the state of Kansas is taxing electric wheelchairs? And they said, well, the whole reason this is coming up is the assessors that are assessing these items do not want to do this. The obtrusiveness of trying to find your ATV, your electric bike, your golf cart, they've got to look over your privacy fence or in your garage or in your barn or something that way. And it was actually costing more money than what they were, of the ones they were finding, than it was to turn around and do it. So the assessors actually came to the legislature and asked that these things be exempt, boats being included also, which boats and everything will be, that'll probably be as big as anything. But when I talked to them the year before when this came up, they had said, you know, nothing could be put on the tax bill. They said, if you do that, nobody will get any relief, and, you know, which is kind of what happened last year. But the tax bill that we actually did last year and the year before, we had $200 million worth of tax relief, which equated and everything to, you know, maybe $30, like he was talking about. You get a huge home, and it was less than $30 on most people's homes, that relief, even though it was $200 million across the state. So when these things came up, I turned around and I told them, I said, I want this on there. You guys stop taxing motorized wheelchairs. And I said, if you don't, I'll see how many papers I can get it in across the state of Kansas. Let's get it done. And you know, ATVs is a huge thing around here. You know, the motorized bikes, I got them in my neighborhood. I got the golf carts and everything. For those of you that don't know, I'm just right down from Fast Tracks and everything. We got them all over the place down there. So I would love to see some regulation on that. I do know that in transportation, we outlawed some of the bikes that were coming from foreign countries and how high the big motors were, the electric motors on these things, because some of them would do 75, 80 miles an hour. And they were just flat dangerous. And so we restricted down to what, you know, a certain amount, and basically what was being manufactured in the United States, which was a lower mile per hour on those. So that actually, you know, that has already occurred to some extent. But the kids being out there, especially the ATVs, you know, I think that they've got to have some kind of driving, you know, knowledge and stuff that way. Even on our state waters, boats and stuff that way, we make that happen. You have to have boating safety and stuff, or else you get a ticket. So that's something that I think we can work on and try and get legislation on. Let's see, the RHID, that made me laugh and everything because, yeah, the ridiculousness on Facebook of what was happening over in Leavenworth and stuff. And I'm right there where this is occurring, you know, the entrance. And it showed just how necessary those homes and that price range, et cetera, were necessary. They were selling before they were built, and they're already in the second phase and stuff that way. That as far as I'm concerned, the RHID is something that's going to spread across Kansas, be even more popular. You know, we had to do it for the contractors. My wife and I used to joke and everything. We'd see somebody with a big trailer of wood and say, boy, that guy's rich. And everything, because, you know, wood went so high that it was absolutely ludicrous to try and get stuff done. And we want to build 2 decks right now. So that's one of those things that we've looked into. So, but we voted for additional incentives with the RHID. I'll support them more. You know, it's one of those things that the housing shortage that we have all across Kansas is astronomical. You know, getting people here to stay. One of the reasons I ran was to turn around and try and make, you know, the property taxes, et cetera, so that my kids and grandkids can stay around here and afford a home. And so I want to see more things happen and everything to get affordable housing for, you know, people, even especially on their first time houses and stuff. So there, you know, back to the County Road 1 thing, I would certainly encourage anything going that direction as far as annexation, anything infrastructure-wise that you guys would consider, and I would support and help in any way that I possibly can, because I think both the utilities, the amenities, the wastewater, all these things are going to have to come from the city. The county is just not going to be able to provide such a thing. And so anything that I can help with down there, I'm willing to turn around and talk to people, things that way. You know, I don't want to see something, you know, like we had with Tyson and stuff that way, you know, whether or not how people feel about the data centers and how they feel about the different other things that's been popping up. We did have a cryptocurrency thing that popped up over in Jefferson County, just north of town, right by the power plant, and they actually put it on a gas supply storage facility that belonged to Southern Star right over here. It was one of their storage facilities, and there's still a lawsuit with that. They did not have permission to do so, and Southern Star, I think, still trying to figure out just how much they used. But they came in like an Army MASH unit, and they had no permanent structures. Everything was on the back of trailers. So they had gigantic generators that just were lined up and everything, diesel generators. They brought their own water for cooling in tanks that's to produce the electricity. And then they brought the processors on these things, and they just set it right there in the middle of the country, where if you were looking, you could see the smoke coming up from this side of McLeod. It was that bad, and it was loud. And I held a deal over there. You know, they were asking for help, and I told them, I said, this is not a state issue that I can step in and do something, but it is something that the county commissioners could do. And so I told them, I said, there's several things you can do. You can turn around and put a moratorium that you don't want cryptocurrency in Jefferson County until you know what it is, et cetera. You can do other things along those lines with people generating their own power. That's one of the things that I look for legislation to come up again in This next session is the generation of power. We had a bill last year on that, and I anticipate some changes to it. So, but that's exactly what they did. I actually was walking back to my vehicle, and one of the county commissioners came and told me, he said, we're having a meeting Wednesday, and we're going to put a moratorium that we don't want cryptocurrency until we know how this works, what it will do, how it's affected, and stuff that way. And they gave them, I think it was 48 hours or something to cease and desist, or the sheriffs would move in, and they were gone. Like I said, it was like a MASH unit. They knew if they got caught, they could be out of there, you know, just, and all you could hear was that cartoon noise, that tick-a-tick-tick-tick-tick, they were gone. And so even trying to figure out who they were and how much damage or gas they'd used, it took a long time for Southern Star, and I think it's still in the process of a lawsuit right now. So we do not want those type of situations occurring here. And I will fight those tooth and nail. I want things that people, you know, can live with. I want people to be happy about it, you know, and I want it to turn around and be something that if there's a contract for property tax relief, you know, those type of situations, that, you know, we're still getting something. And I have several ideas on situations like that instead of full 10-year abatements, you know, doing, you know, a trickle down and everything, so that immediately we start getting something and we show the people and everything that we can, that we're getting some property tax relief out of some of these businesses that are coming in. But anyway, I know you guys have a busy night. If there's anything else, I want to make sure, since I've got some of the bosses here and everything, that I always tell you guys and everything, if there's anything you guys need, grants, stuff like that, please let me know and anything that I can help with. I want to turn around and support you guys all I can. George, you and I will be in contact and everything about some other stuff and anything else that pops up. Any of you guys and everything want to come to Topeka, if you see a bill or anything along those lines that you want to specifically look at, or you want to come watch, or you want to come to committee, or you want to speak on, let me know and I'll help and everything, because you know, my office assistant is fabulous. We always have food. We have a coffee machine. People are constantly raiding my refrigerator, and so you guys are more than welcome anytime up there, and I'd love to, you know, help and everything any way I can. So.
Did I, I'm sorry, thanks, that's great. Thanks, Lance, appreciate that. Did you say that you had more to say about the library district?
Oh yeah, on the library district and everything. I was just gonna say that I've already had more than one municipality come to me in desire for legislation to make those positions elected. And the reason being is that you know, on several other things that they're talking about in the legislature, you have unelected people making tax decisions and incurring taxes, and they're not elected by the people. And you know, granted, I think some of them the mayor can appoint and everything, and some of the other ones. So I mean, there is some that the mayor is elected, but some of these municipalities would like to see those positions as an elected position. And that would take, you know, it getting put on the ballot and stuff that way. So that's a little bigger than what people actually think it is. It's, if you get something put on the ballot, it takes a little more oomph than some of the other things. So one of the other things I wanted to bring up and everything that I heard the other day, and I just want to throw it out in front of you guys, but there's all these different things, and we have no idea. We know the two major tax things that they talked about last year, But one of the things that they brought up in one of the things I was looking at was splitting when taxes were sent out. And that would be that all local taxes, let's say, would come out, you know, city, county, stuff that way would come out in May. And then educational taxes would come out in November or something, so that people could actually see what they're paying for, what the differences and stuff are. And that being that, you know, last year the state got rid of all property taxes that the state does, except for the 20 mil that is actually education. It's under the state, but it all goes to education. It does not go to the state of Kansas. So we got rid of our 1.5 mils. But so you would have two different tax times and everything. And I was just entertained to see and throw that out so you guys can think about, because I have heard several people say that they like that idea. It gives people a lot more transparency as to what they're being taxed on. And so I can see that one possibly coming up. There's a lot of other ones, and I'm not even going to speculate and everything what something will be thrown out. You know, as the Vice Chair of Agriculture, they took water and made its own committee because water is such a big deal, especially out west. And, you know, in the Hayes area, they've really got a problem with drought. So being the Vice Chair of Agriculture last year, they took about 70% of everything that we were doing off of our plate. And so last year when people asked me, you know, what we did in agriculture, I told everybody, you still cannot have a raccoon as a pet. Okay? So and the reason we made that decision is that there is yet to be a rabies vaccine for raccoons, let alone catching them is probably pretty entertaining too. So, but anyway, hopefully we'll see some more agriculture things come through this year. I know there's some other ones that I've already seen and heard of, so that's very important to me. I've been out supporting all the FFA groups in my district here in you know, Eudora and out at McLeod. So that's something that you're going to see more of with me is the agriculture stuff. But I don't want you to think that I'm forgetting any of the other stuff, because you know, the property tax and stuff is going to be our number one issue. But anything else and everything, you know, please. I have cards if you want one and everything. It does have my cell phone on it. You're welcome to call, and I will tell you that I inherited a farm out north, and I go out there and my phone don't work. But about every few hours I check my phone and stuff that way. So T-Mobile needs to get service out that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Appreciate all that you do for us. We've got 10 minutes before the regular meeting starts, so we'll take a recess till that
If I
time.
could just end on one additional item on the data center discussion, just for Representative Neely. I think there could be an opportunity if the state would take a kind of more of a holistic approach to data centers to maybe introduce ag components so that, you know, these large scale projects don't, you know, if they want 1,000 acres, not all of that has to go towards building a building to house computers and components of computers. And so I know that like the state did Senate Bill 98 last year, which did a sales tax exemption to make it more attractive for data centers to come to the state. This November, there was the large load tariff that was passed to kind of avoid the Panasonic situation, which if you're not familiar with that, it's like, well, you build a facility for 2 gig of service, and then they're going to do it at like 2 megawatts at a time. And so you encounter all of this expense, and maybe 30 years from now or 20 years from now, they're going to use all that power, which would generate enough revenue. So those were great starts, and I think it does make it attractive. But in case you're involved or any of your colleagues that you're comfortable talking to, I would suggest there's 2 states that have really interesting models. So one is Minnesota. It's actually called the Minnesota model. It's a multifaceted approach to it, but from some of the concerns I've heard, So I think Kansas is right in that. I mean, it makes it attractive. We're not in the south, so a little cooler climate, centrally located, not overabundance of development. So those are all things that are gonna make us, attractive as well. And so I would just encourage you to maybe the colleagues that would be working on that, to have them look at those states in particular.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that very much.
Thanks, Mayor, that's all.
Okay. Council, did you have anything more you wanted to talk about?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna jump at the opportunity. I know it's a long shot, it'll never happen, but I do wish in communities like ours, and maybe Baser as well, for growing communities, that the revenue neutral rate language could be amended to say something that was revenue neutral net of new growth. We're adding, I believe 3% was last year in total new assessed valuation was from new construction. And so it would just cut down, I think, on the misunderstandings that can occur between taxpayer and their local governing bodies, because those places, like the build up there by Fast Tracks, those places need roads, they need services, need all that kind of stuff too. They're coming onto the city's tax rolls, and yet the current billing, the way that those notices are sent out, makes it look like we're continuing to milk everybody for what the most we can. So I just feel like it makes some common sense to maybe just continue to add some nuance to those notices to just help both sides understand that everyone's doing the best they can.
All right, thank you. We'll recess until 7 o'clock.